which is not to say that I don't enjoy effects. It's just that I have often been so intoxicated by the delightful sound of analog synthesizers that I haven't really applied a lot of effects. And there was a purism time where I didn't want to use digital effects. Well, those days are over. I have to say, like, as great as all of the analog elements and the basic functions are concerned, and certainly the modulation routing, once you dig into the effects in the Dreadbox Typhon, there's no coming back. It's really a great effect architecture, and the effects that were designed by Sine Vibes are really useful and really great sounding. And it's not all just like over the top crazy effects. There's some nice subtle sounds as well. It's really quite nice. So let's dig right into it. If you want to access the effects, you use this encoder. Now there are 3 different types of effects. There is the distortion set, there's the enhancer set, and there is the reflection set. We're going to focus on the distortion set and go through the effects and kind of give you a sense of what each effect does. Now during this, I'm just using a really basic Sawtooth wave that I'm going to keep consistent. It's not going to be thrilling to listen to. This is not to like wow you with cool synthesis jams, but rather to give you a really basic sense of what the effects are doing to the sound. And the best way to do that is just keep the sound consistent and let the effects do what they do. So, yes, I'll do more interesting outcomes when I do the video that shows you how to modulate the effects, bring the modulation section and the effects section together. Anyway, so here we go. We're starting off with the distortion section. The first effect is S-curve, and I don't know what that is, but here's what it does. Okay, so if you look, you'll often see different settings here. I want to start off by saying FFM. That stands for filter frequency modulation. So that is a modulation that is affecting the filter, which makes some really cool sounds, especially if you have like high resonance going on. The effect actually affects the filter, which is cool. But usually you're going to want to look for the mix and start pushing the mix up first. I'm going to turn these down because they get a little loud, especially in the distortion section. Okay, here's our Sawtooth. So here we go. Without any gain, there are some changes you can hear there, but it's very subtle. So it sounds like a kind of overdriving that's happening. And this is important, and I'll tell you why. Because so many of the early synthesizers that were so popular became popular because they distorted. There was some aspect of their architecture that caused them to saturate or overdrive. And so these sorts of effects allow you to create more like, for example, mini-moog type sounds when you have the ability to do these subtle saturation effects. Okay, let's turn up the filter modulation. So that, well, let's add some resonance. So we're one effect in, and already you have the ability to take a super basic Sawtooth sound and make it into something really cool sounding. Okay, let's move on to the Triclip. I, again, don't know what architecturally is happening with this, but let's just have a listen to it. Once again, very subtle without the gain up. So there's a fair amount of different timbres you can generate with this thing. Which those are, if I was playing them in any sort of musical way or had a sequence going, I'm sure you would see that this is, these are some cool sounds. So that is the Triclip. Let's head up to Shred. With this one, you can hear some changes with the mix without the gain being up. Gets pretty high rangey and distorted. Let's bring some gain in. Kind of subtle. Let's hear the frequency modulation. Really cool. That's very nice. Get the self-oscillation in there and you'll get some cool stuff. That's really cool. Sometimes you really have to get some of the filter action going to get to some really gritty sounds. That's super cool. All right, and Bitcrush. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. It gets really nutty. I'm playing a whole bunch of notes and it's just doing this weird stuff. So yeah, there's you really can get off quite a ways away from your basic Sawtooth. So you can imagine what would happen if I was doing even more manipulations with modulation or different settings over here in the analog section. That's really fun. As a non-digital guy, I can, how can you not have fun with that? So that is basically the Bitcrush. Again, the more you mess around with the filter cutoff and resonance as you're dealing with the filter frequency modulation setting in regard to the rest of the effect, the more aggressive and insane things are going to get. And here is Hard Clip, which is just going to give you a sort of straightforward saturated sound. So you can get some really cool things with that. It's pretty subtle to begin with, but the minute you start messing around with the filter, you're going to get some exciting outcomes. Fold back. That is awesome, if I may say. And then we're back to S curve. So you have a fair amount of different distortions you can work with, and they all give a sort of overdriven, admittedly kind of analog sound to the analog sound that is already happening. So, I mean, you can really get into the gritty, overdriven, fat, dare I say, analog synth sounds using these distortion effects. So those are the distortion effects found on the Dreadbox Typhon.